So welcome everyone here for a great celebration, 35 years of the Institute for Neural Computation here at UC San Diego. So thank you everyone for coming. We have a very exciting program today with very distinguished speakers, both here rooted within the Institute as well as world leaders, because in this great community of neural computation around the world that we help create. So we're very delighted to have also campus leadership with us today. And we start here with Miroslav Krstic, the Associate Vice Chancellor of Research, who will give us a introduction on the great stuff happening here. Something. Where is he? He's right here. Oh,
Thank you very much, Gert. So for 14 years, it's been my honor to lend some support to Gert and Terry and Andrea. Where is Andrea Chiba and Jeannie Desa and
Gary Cottrell.
Eric Cottrell, Scott McKaig and Chipping and many others in various titles at INC. My job has been bureaucratic to oversee things like reviews of this ORU, and you can sum up what I've seen over the 14 years as an ORU that has run maybe on the order of $100 million over the course of my interaction with it through it. Let me justify. The TDLC was a $32 million center, the time domain, I'm sorry, temporal dynamics, huh? 33 temporal dynamics of learning center by the NSF, with more than that also raised and run through other departments as follow-up funding. And the Schwartz Center has been on the order of a $20 million operation, and so on and so forth. But that's so superficial, and when we review ORUs, that's not what it's about. However, with the absolute confidence that what the reviewers are reviewing is an outstanding operation, I tell them that it's not determining whether this operation should exist, but providing their opinion why. In other words, looking under the hood scientifically. And then once you lift the hood, you're absolutely overwhelmed with the complexity of what's going on and with the diversity of what's going on. Things that range from artificial neural networks to brain interfaces to computing to the neural underpinning of music and so on and so forth. And then structurally, you'll look there and things are again not simple at all. You have an institute with centers within it. And when you look at the people participating, you have faculty, you have outstanding research scientists and project scientists for whom the directors are fighting very, very hard to get recognized, sometimes without the ability to retain them because sometimes things, better treatment is offered elsewhere, or sometimes people succeed and graduate, like with the Emotion startup that got acquired by Apple. I think this was Javier.
Emotion, Javier Movellin and Marnie Bartlett Stewart.
And she's here, right?
Yes.
I saw her. Congratulations.
There she is.
with an Apple sticker still. So congratulations. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention Dr. Corey Davis, the MSO. Where is she? The superstar MSO. So anyway, here we are 35 years in. Now, would anybody here know Italian? Great. Let me see. You're actually Italian. All right. So please, you have no right to answer this question. This question is directed to others. What I'm going to read is maybe the most famous verse penned by a human. Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita. What is that? The English translation is...
No, wait, is that Dante?
Yes. So the translation is midway upon the journey of our life. But what Dante is trying to say is that at the time he enters the Inferno, he's 35 years old. Why 35? midway upon the life journey, because there is a psalm in the Bible that says that humans live 70 years typically. So 35 years. I don't think that this ORU is destined to simply enter the inferno and stay there. He made it all the way through Paradiso, maybe in the same year. But with that observation, let me wish you another 35 years. Why not? And thank you again for all the contributions you made.
Thank you so much. And with that, we're very glad to have also Vice Chancellor of Research, Corinne Peek-Asa.
Thank you. Yeah, Miroslav was going to focus on the history, and I want to talk a little bit about the bright future. And, you know, the brain is really one of those vast frontiers, deep space, deep ocean, the brain, that the more we learn about how it works, and surprisingly we know so little, the more we can apply that to so many different areas of learning. And INC is doing that in such an exciting way, in really bringing through collaborators, attracting the most curious and creative minds. And it's impressive to me because it's pretty easy to collaborate one or two puddles away from what you do, science and engineering and things like that. But it's really remarkable to understand and bring together and have conversations with the ethicists, the philosophers, the economists. And I think that is part of the magic of INC. And I think you'll continue to do that. It is part of your history. I just learned that a Nobel level winning economist was part of the original team. So I think that the ability to have those conversations and think about all those things, because ethics, for example, is always, you know, just a little behind and then a little in front. It catches up and then it leapfrogs ahead. And we really have a crisis of science ahead of us. I can tell you that I'm spending a lot of time in DC and hearing positive news that even in our current times, the legislature gets science. They get the knowledge economy. There's not a huge eagerness to get things about it. But we also have a huge problem with our public really not understanding and being afraid and distrustful of the very work that you do. So understanding with the ethicists, the philosophers, how do we communicate? How do we take the vast basic knowledge and then apply it to so many different ways that make our lives better? We need to tell that story. So you are here to tell that story. You're here to work together on accelerating that path of discovery. And I will keep it very brief and just wish you the very, very best of times with each other today.
Thank you. And so finally, we are also delighted to have with us Dean Rajesh Gupta, in fact, founding dean of a new school, SCITS, School of Computing, Information and Data Science. And of course, also the director of the Halıcıoğlu Data Science Institute, which is also based here in the Supercomputer Center. So very much delighted to have with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gert. Years ago, I was chair of computer science. I heard of a young researcher in Johns Hopkins who had built a machine called carnivore. And Chancellor was fellow chair of Bioengineering. I said, Shankar, let's get it. I'm so glad that Gert became here and built and gave acceleration to INC. And Terry, your intellectual leadership has been phenomenal. So it's so glad to see Vice Chancellor Peek-Asa, Miroslav. For years, 2018, I was handed a colleague who unfortunately will pass away shortly, Jeff Hellman, to build a data science entity. We call it an institute. And I found a remote place outside the hub of the engineering and so on, which is where I was, in a floor, 2 floors up in this building. And we built out of sight, but continuously working in an organization that had that now has 1,600 students, serves about 6,000 students in classes, 7 degree programs now, 2 more in flight. And we hired 44 faculty members, 38 of them are assistant professors, probably the largest group of junior faculty in the country in AI and machine learning. And the flowers are beginning to blossom. In the period you were here, and this building is somewhat strange. Not all floors are connected by elevators. You get out and do something. And there's no way you can avoid a sign with a neuron and two circuits attached to it. I was a circuit designer in my previous life. And that was INC. So every day, including Saturday, I come Saturdays too. I will walk by INC. And always curious, in interviewing all my candidates, what transpired last 7 years could best be called AI in the era of computational neuroscience. It was not just the eye that gave the inspiration for two-level neural networks and CNNs and so on. My students, the most recent student was teaching me about polyvagal theory of cognitive organization. And I won't bore you with that, with my little knowledge. But what I did find is that in the feedback systems, the idea of discrimination synthesis, as GANs do, or more cognitive processes, we have so much to learn from human brain and ourselves. And we have a higher faculty member who actually studies neural networks with a view towards understanding human brain, Gert. She runs experiments to figure out how brain works. This is an exciting time. And the distinction of what we call research units and academic units, thankfully, is blurring. And you could blame us also for that. We call it an institute. With a reason, we didn't want to get into the hierarchy of our academic schools and find a place, whether you carry a title of professor or assistant professor or research scientist, in equal footing. So when it came time, and we are about 3 years ahead of schedule in how we have laid out SDSI plan. SDSI is a short term for Halıcıoğlu Data Science Institute. If not, it doesn't happen. The acceleration actually happened ironically due to COVID. We were left in peace, and the bureaucracy that could be in the way was already on vacation or working remotely. So we sort of went fast. And so 2 years ago, the campus decided that we needed to be quote unquote regularized, which was a code word for let's get the bureaucracy back. So I'm now part of the bureaucracy. So we formed a school of computing information and data science. And the core component, of course, is SDSI, was also SDSC. We discovered each other just by co-location. And it would not be an exaggeration to say that institutionally we fell in love. There is only very few places where you come into a building, you're given 4 or 5 offices to start, and then you keep growing. By the time you got done with the 34 offices. And people who were in their offices right out there for 10, 20, 25 years, voluntarily, we didn't ask them, moved their offices somewhere else in the building to make room for us. Who does that? Only people who love each other. So it was obvious that the core architecture of the school had to go through, for a variety of reasons, including academic and the role of supercomputing, also liking each other. People cannot work with each other until they like each other first. It doesn't matter what their areas are. And so I'm very glad to see that the School of Computing emerged with SDSC and SDSI. And of course, I'm back to what I did 7 years ago, which is a blank piece of paper, almost blank, and a staff of me and 2 assistants to work this out. But the amount of momentum we see is enormous. And the vision of a hub for AI, machine learning, running through the campus with a nerve system, device or something, is pretty compelling. And so I'm glad to see, I'm looking forward to hearing the talks today, either in person or remotely. And thank you for inviting me, thank you for coming here.
Thank you. It's great. So I'll give a brief history of the field of neural computation. Yes, and I'm already shared over Zoom, so it's here now. Oh, this is great. I think we're ready. That's good.
The middle.
Oh, it's in the middle. Okay.
We know that.
All right, just get it out of the way. Here, that's good. Doesn't like it. Okay, so neural computation has been around for 35 years, but we still don't know how to make intelligent computer systems. Okay, so this hopefully be a brief history, and I have 50 minutes. I'll try if I can see it. I can speed it up. So where do we start? Well, we can start in many places. We can go back to my colleague Pitts or Hodgkin Huxley, right, all the great giants in the field. But here is one giant I think is worth actually considering here. And we all know John von Neumann as, which is now, I mean, he's a great mathematician, first of all, but also the father of what is considered to be the field of digital computing. In fact, we still call this von Neumann model of computing as that serial engine that takes data, instruction, memory, and then based on that, it executes, I guess, operations and on data memory. And it's a very elaborate process, and it's great because this way we're able to compute, in fact, program computation, and this worked out great for many digital computing purposes.
Called von Neumann architecture.
In fact, it's called von Neumann architecture. At the end of his life, John von Neumann also looked into the brain, and he contrasted this digital model of computation versus the more analogic rather than logical, distributed, massively parallel, noisy, fundamental thermodynamic system in the brain for computing that does things so much more efficiently in a way, because at the system level, you get really wonderful properties of how the system can do computation that even the wildest digital systems were not able to do. Unfortunately, he passed away before he can deliver his lectures at Yale, but this book is a jewel, and I recommend everyone to read it. In fact, there are several versions. I actually prefer another one with the foreword by Ray Kurzweil. I like the one with the foreword by Pat Churchland, which gives a bit of a personal and INC-centric view on this. In any case, I would consider this is the start of neuromorphic computing before the whole field started. Sure, soon later, here at UC San Diego, the field of cognitive science was born as a very different way of thinking about how the brain operates. In a way, it was bold enough to go at the middle ground, the void middle ground between neuroscience and what was known as artificial intelligence, really figuring out how does the brain compute, right? What is intelligent activity? How does it relate to how we operate as humans? How can we get complexity emerge from very simple mechanisms? The kind of questions that, of course, von Neumann was also asking. And of course, what's the role of learning, adaptation, and development? Very different from old school AI because the rule-based reasoning kind of thing that has been prevailing for many years. And in fact, it is not a secret that for many years, this analogic reasoning, this neural network modeling, has been the antidote or the complete opposite of AI, artificial intelligence. In fact, there has been a great debate over the years, AI versus neural networks. Fortunately, things have come together since then. In any case, cognitive science was born here, and the rest is history. And so here, great things happen. So in the 1980s, we had PDP, or parallel distributed processing, which was taking that idea of how the brain is organized for doing these massively parallel operations with this noisy, massively connected elements with learning. In fact, all the principles of deep learning, backpropagation, reinforcement learning, Boltzmann machines, etc., autoencoders, they were all developed in this beautiful set of books that came out of the Institute of Cognitive Science here in the 1980s. And the giants in the field, they were all here. So David Rumelhart, Jay McLennan, Ron Williams, Don Norman, Jeff Elman, unfortunately passed away, Dave Zipser, etc. And of course, Terry Sinofsky and Jeff Hinton. In fact, Jeff Hinton was a postdoc here. And there's another very interesting story I can share about that one. But so he was definitely, it would have been great to keep him here. But so he then went to Toronto, and the rest is also history. So this was a really great, vibrant field. Here was a center, in fact, the epicenter of this field of neural computation. And so formally, the department, the Institute of Cognitive Science became a department, in fact, the very first, both the first chronologically, but also the first leading the world in the field. Still today, CogSci here at UCD is leading in the world in cognitive science. So this was in the late 80s. Don Norman, Jeff Elman, Dean Gene started, but now we have many more people. And we have several faculty here in the Department of Cognitive Science, Gina Desa, Andrea Chiba, right? And many others, right? They're all, and depending whether we can count Gary to be computer science, Gary Cottrell, or cognitive science. But either way, he's both, right? So there's a really great department that was launched, and that led the Institute of Cognitive Science to become the Institute for Neural Computation. And this was in 1990. So indeed, that's now 35 years ago. And I can spend another 10 minutes to play this video. Let me just actually, in fact, I have it also up where I can find it here. Where's it here? This one here. So, right, if you scroll down on the INC page that has the invitation for this meeting, we left this little video here that Robert Buffington, our really great IT czar, rescued from under the dust somewhere in one of the cabinets, and it was fantastic. And so that's indeed the origin of INC. Let's see, I can probably should.
You should fast forward to.
Yes.
A lot of words.
Now, but before that, let me make sure I'm sharing my sound. But I guess, yes, I think it's a great, I'll just leave you all with the video because you all enjoy it. And it's amazing. Sure, we're in the midst of this major shift, right? And and what's shift? It's this way of doing computing that today is called non-von Neumann computing. Well, the von Neumann way of actually doing brain-like computing. And it was fantastic, right? So I won't show the whole video. I'll just leave with that. And so sure enough, I can show you some of the familiar faces that we have here, right? This is all great. The Salk Institute, and so here we have our beloved Terry Sinofsky. And it's amazing. He still looks exactly the same 35 years ago as now, today. There's something about the field of neural computation that keeps you young. There's no sound, but yeah, I'll just leave it because it's not, this one is okay. And everyone can just play it, right? And so it's all exciting. So just let me stop here. Because the sound is a bit of a challenge here, but that's okay. Okay. And so here were the founding members or the advisory committee, and you recognize again several familiar faces. Sure, Terry's here in the lower right. Alan Silverstone was also one of the first ones. He's also, right? So here we, and Gary Cottrell, he was also there, was from the very beginning. Pat Churchland. Well, many, right? So, and we had a great mix of neurobiologists, neuroscientists, and cognitive scientists and computer scientists. And this was meant to be from the very beginning, this very interdisciplinary endeavor. Right, so that was 1990. So fast forward, I won't go over all the detail, but so many great things happened since then. So over the next 10 years, we get this really fantastic temporal dynamics of learning center with funding from the National Science Foundation at the tune of over 33 million. And here is actually 70 million if you count for all the networks that were the additional funding that was obtained through this international network, right, involving people from all around the world, and really launching a new field of a new science of learning that is really based in how the brain works and connecting to us at every level, including societal levels. Yeah? Another great thing was we had a Schwartz Center for Computation Neuroscience, is now also, because many years, 30 some years. I mean, it's amazing. Equally, I mean, dollar-wise, equally impressive, but one of the very impressive things that came forth of all this really great analysis of brain activity, EEG and other type of, right, is EEG lab as a tool that everyone now in the world uses. Anyone who does EEG analysis uses it. 15,000 users, 350,000 downloads from 50 countries worldwide. So this shows some of the global impact that INC and the Schwartz Center has been making. Many great, so you all know neurocomputation is also synonymous with NIPS or NeurIPS, right? So the neural information processing systems, which is also founded by several people in the room here. So both Terry, we have also Yasser will give our great Rockwood lecture later today, Marnie, and so it's this was it started with a few hundred people, and today it's going to be tens of thousands of people. Again, here in San Diego.
25,000.
25,000. Yes. That's great. Yes.
This is succeeding neuroscience.
For two reasons, because neuroscience dwindled a bit because of travel restrictions, but yes. Neural computation also became a great journal. Terry has been at the lead of the journal now for 30 some years. I still remember issue 1, volume 1, issue 1. I have it still on my desk somewhere. So really great things happening, right? And the Science Network, unfortunately, Roger Bingham passed away, but there's still really great jewels that left behind in this Science Network, basically videos that share the passion for science for everyone to understand and appreciate.
And also he documented the INC.
Yes, yes.
So we have left.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So there's some really treasure troves that we have on the INC webpage that anyone's welcome. In fact, during the lunch hour, when we have the demos and the posters, you're more than welcome to stop by our Roger Bingham library upstairs, right? Which has also many treasures, books that are, you can spend the entire month reading there if you like. So fast forward, so 2010, we celebrated our 20th anniversary, and here is the program. We got some really great things. It's still recorded, by the way. It's just, we had this great music performance of the, well, this is the, what is it called? The Motherland, or no, the Gamelan performance, right? It was really fantastic. And we had some open house then. Today, again, we have another open house. We'll do it again today. And so INC became, in a way, bigger over the years, right? So already we have felt impact worldwide through the Temporal Dynamics of Learning Center, the Schwartz Center for Computation Neuroscience. And so it became bigger. We connected with other institutes on campus, the Institute of Engineering and Medicine, jointly with which Chip-Ping Jung has been co-director or director of the Center for Advanced Neurological Engineering. Many other connections with the Jacob School, Kalati 2, or basically now the Qualcomm Institute, Supercomputer Center, etc. So there has been really great connections on campus, and of course also across. So this is a picture, and this is a snapshot in 2010, right, with some companies and organizations that were active at that time. And it's even gotten bigger since then, right? Where we really tied and made connections that reached very far. So just 5 years later, just now 10 years ago, our network expanded quite dramatically on all levels, whether it's internationally, academically, organizations, but also with impact in startups that really were leading the field and that have made transformative advances in neural computation and neuroscience and neuroengineering worldwide. And just a few here, right? You may have heard of Emotion, a little company that was started here out of, basically, you can think of it as our INC incubator, literally. Emotion was acquired by Apple. So today we have also Marnie that can tell us a bit more about excitement in the field. But many others, right? So we had Softmax. So Taewon Lee also started this great company, right? Along with Chien-Gene and others, right? Where's and Chien-Gene, of course, yes, I said Chien-Gene, yes. Taewon Lee, Chien-Gene and others, right? So they started Softmax. Taewon Lee, yes, yeah, he's here. Okay, great, so wonderful. And so Softmax was acquired by Qualcomm and made really great waves on how independent component analysis has really transformed the field of auditory analysis. Quite amazing work. Cauwenberghs is one that I also spin off because really brain-computer interfaces, and the list goes on, right? So impact that we've made. And we also defined a mission. So this is our mission of INC, right? So we definitely are international. We want to bring together the diverse research community in the basic sciences, medical, engineering disciplines at UCD, but also internationally, right? In advancing and promoting a new science of computation and learning based on multi-scale, parallel, and highly adaptive architectures found in biological neural systems, right? And we're committed for this worldwide leadership, working with industrial clinical partners and the broader community in applying research advances to the benefit of society. So we lift up to this mantra, and there's several examples. Here's an example of work at INC, right, leading a work sponsored by the National Science Foundation, which involved almost all of the INC members, right? Close the loop between neural computation and unobtrusive neural interfaces for unobtrusive remediation of Parkinson's disease. Rather than sticking electrodes deep in the brain, you can actually make advances in, right, through unobtrusive means, basically eliciting the natural healing powers of the brain through neurofeedback, right? And that has been a really starting point for much of the research here. And Chien-Gene, in particular, has been leading the field of closed-loop neurofeedback, doing some wonders, including with several collaborators in Taiwan, right? So both the Center for Computational Neuroscience, but also the ITRI and NYCU in Taiwan. And here are some examples of our transitions from lab to market. Softmax, already mentioned, acquired by Qualcomm. Neurovigil is another one that, right? So Philip Lowe, Terry, right? Cauwenberghs, I mentioned already, or CGX. Emotion, now acquired by Apple. BrainCorp, Eugene Zikovic, who also a member on our advisory board. So really great things that came out of INC. And our impact has felt with the millions too, right, through global outreach, right? So the Learning to Learn MOOC that Terry and Barbara Oakley have now championed for many years, since 2014 or so, right? Has really taken the world as a revolution with millions, right? So over 4 million people. Over 6 million. Okay, sorry, it's outdated. This webpage is outdated. It keeps growing. So this definitely makes an impact in the world, right? Now, but let's go back a little bit in the future. In the future and in the past. So in the 1960s, there have been many moonshots. And in fact, moonshots started in a way by people that were very excited or very thrilled by the concept. What is that moon, this thing there in the sky? And how do you access it? What can you do with it? And so there's very excited, this very enthusiastic bunch of high school students in Ohio had this project called Moonbounce. It's very simple, right? You basically shoot some RF beam to the moon, sure enough, there'll be some reflection in the moon and it comes back. And so this way, knowing the speed of light, you can kind of estimate based on that, on the round trip, right? You can basically estimate the round trip distance and it gives you the distance to the moon. And sure enough, those very smart, intelligent kids, they were able to do it. Right, and so here are some of the people in the list, and you recognize immediately one name. So that was Terry Szynovsky. He was a high school student then. And I would say this is actually has led to a moonshot, literally to the moonshots in different ways. In fact, Terry has started a few moonshots, by the way. But here is actually one, in a way, this set of high school students. They found this really interesting object in the sky that was much closer to the Earth than the moon. And that was interesting. What was it? It was actually the Sputnik satellite, right? They were one of the first ones to actually register it, discover it. And sure enough, that started the revolution here in the United States. NASA started because, and the whole field of space science, Kennedy vowed to put a man on the moon within a decade. And it happened due to this concerted action. This was the moonshot. It worked, it happened, right? And this was one moonshot that was really a great. But here's another moonshot. So this is 2013. Again, Terry was there and is there on the very left, among with several other ones. So UCD, again, was very much prominently positioned to lead the White House to realize how important neuroscience is for everything in the world. And not just neuroscientists, but engineers, mathematicians, chemists, engineers, they can all help to really figure out how the brain works as this hard problem. So there's the Brain Initiative that was started in a way again. And so many exciting things happened. So here in 2016, this was one transformative moment where the world was taken by surprise. Suddenly, I would say this is both the collapse of AI and the rise of neural networks, even though today we call AI really this kind of, and by the way, Google DeepMind was founded by neuroscientists. They were doing basically fMRI research, understanding how the brain works. And they were really infusing that work in this first product, right, of this Google DeepMind, this AlphaGo system. Deep learning with reinforced learning, all models of, say, the layered cortical organization, right, in the brain, as well as the basic ganglia, dopamine reward conditioning, right, reinforced learning. So this were all part of the recipes. And sure enough, well, other than just like a few details, of course, DeepMind had deep pockets, and they were able to throw 1,000 times more power than human beings. So it was not a very unfair competition to defeat this world champion at the game of Go, but they still did it, of course. So this started really a deep learning revolution, which actually started here again in the 80s. But so Terry has a beautiful book that documents it all. In fact, there's another book that came out afterwards about large language models. Very great nighttime reading for everyone. It's highly recommended. I'll just say a few words about, I guess, my own work too. So in 2022, we also had we made some press in a Nature paper with this chip that was actually doing neuromorphic computing, or AI, and the edge at extremely great efficiency, but also being resilient to imprecision, being able to do all this, almost any AI computation at a fraction of the energy of digital. And some other exciting things that, again, as I mentioned, so we're branching out. We have been branching out from neuroscience to neuroengineering, and we can also take advantage of, say, placing sensors in the ears and then do unobtrusive monitoring and neurofeedback. And that's where I leave it, because that's where. So with that, I think is a good point to have Terry Szynovsky now give his lecture, right, on the next steps of brains and AI. So thank you.